eyes up, don't get all tied up. Hoping you wise up the multiple lies of the multifaceted, multi-complex system of living that people are living. Stuck in inertia, that's a diversion. Government worship, instead we are searching ancient mysteries, ancient history, sacred energy, and how to discern it. Human autonomy, truth of philosophy, UFOlogy, human psychopathy, super anomalies, human ecology, you got lobotomies up in your consciousness. All the thoughts that we've been dancing around. The system wants to blow your candle out, but we won't let it. We reject it with our pathetic lies, so we chant it down.
Chant It Down podcast is your gateway to your unraveling of a complex system that is grabbing hold of the lives of you and everyone you know. Come untangle from this woven web to understand this crazy world. Chant It Down with your host, Loomis.
Welcome back to Chant It Down. I'm your host, Loomis. This is episode 282. Chantitdownradio.com is a website, and we're back again with another episode. We've often talked a lot on this show about how this century has taken shape from psyops and fear events on the general public. I mean, real, faked, mix of both. A growing movement started after 9/11 that saw the cracks in that story and then unraveled to an awakening of sorts. And people started to find out about how many lies they've been given. And it started as a genuine thing for the most part. And people coming together to expose a dark elite behind the scenes, driving humanity toward more slavery and mind control. You know, it alerted certain people with that frequency that understood. Over the years, though, it's changed form many times now, and I wouldn't really call it a movement at all, not to tarnish the great works that have been done or that people are doing now, but as a whole, I've only seen a lot of infighting, psyops, and relatively no traction. Well, with me today is OG truth speaker Bob Tuskin back on the show, and he had his own show for many years, the Bob Tuskin Show, way back, and he used to be reporting on things daily as well as pointing out solutions to get the multi-pronged attack on humanity exposed and to get out and grow into freedom. So, welcome back to the show, Bob.
I think I've become an isolationist at this point. You know, as much as I love community, I cherish my friendship with you, Loomis. You call me an OG. You're an OG in my heart. Having, participated with my broadcast many years ago, and then you've inspired me with everything you've done since then.
Thank you.
On your own. It's been amazing to see, and I learn. And I think there's no shortage of voices out there that we can learn from. However, I have become an isolationist in my expectations, if you will. They did a study, I think, about expectations being the precursor to happiness or a lack thereof, expectations. And if you have low expectations, then you're not as easily disappointed, right?
Right.
You know, if you live in a country where it's shit all the time, it's dark, it's gloomy, and then the sun comes out and you have food that's hot, and, occasionally you can do some things that you enjoy, you're happy. You're generally happy. But if your expectation levels are up here, if you're high maintenance, if you're constantly chasing the dragon, if you're trying to keep up with the Jones, that's the saying, the Joneses,
The Joneses, yeah.
The Joneses,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you're constantly left with a desire for more, and you're chasing, and that's, again, I'm going to get ahead of myself, but that's why this scarcity-based mind control is so powerful. That scarcity that you're chasing, not feeling abundance within yourself. When you're playing off of that mindset, that flight or fight, if you will, the reptilian mind, where you're constantly chasing the dragon, as I said,
Yeah.
you're going to be left disappointed. You're going to be left unhappy. And you're going to be left to this movement that is not going to fulfill you and is just going to create more infighting and nonsense to deal with. So at the end of the day, I don't seek external things to create my own happiness.
That's good.
I don't depend on Infowars.com for my own internal activism.
Right.
The onion.com, I guess now.
Is that it? Really?
You didn't hear about that?
No, I'm out of the loop actually. I'm an isolationist too. So yeah. Okay.
So apparently Infowars, because of the Sandy Hook stuff with Alex Jones, was auctioned off, and the Onion bought Infowars. So Infowars is no more. Talk about a change in our world today. Infowars is no more. You go to Infowars.com, it's gone. Not that I went there. This was the first time I've been there probably in many years since the time frame in which they used to cover my activism occasionally, and I would enjoy seeing some of my colleagues on there from time to time. But I digress. I feel like I was on the edge of making some decent points here, and now I sidetracked myself.
Well, you were basically talking about that you don't go to Infowars for external fulfillment, and all these things, these expectations that people have are never going to be fulfilling them and helping them. Yeah.
And if we go too much towards a party, then we are going to be left to the control of that party, and we're going to be disappointed at the end of the day. And that's why we don't participate in the two-party system. That's 101 at this point for anybody watching this. Although maybe that's gone backwards for some because this whole Trump phenomena, and now all of a sudden we're okay with the two-party system because Donald Trump Q bullshit. I don't know, whatever, right? I don't know.
Yeah, we should talk about that. But go ahead with your point too. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a fairly intuitive point. I don't put the onus on the movement to create the abundance and the freedom and sovereignty in my life. I don't do that. Not to say that I don't cherish, like I was saying, my relationships with you, Loomis, and others. And you can have it both. The two are not mutually exclusive. You can have it where you are going down the path to freedom in your own sacred fashion, and still at times lean on and learn from others out there. And I do it every single day. You know what, Loomis? I got an admission to make.
Okay.
This is the first time I've ever announced this publicly, so you can consider this an exclusive on your show here, Loomis.
Oh, I'm excited.
I just want to come out of the closet, so to speak. I listen to NPR once in a while.
Okay.
Yep, I do. I listen to NPR, and sometimes they talk about, I don't know, transgender shit, or they talk about climate change, but sometimes they also talk about the brain and neuroscience, and sometimes they talk about culture, and they have fun stories about the elderly. And I watched something on YouTube, for instance. I'll admit it. It's called Yes Theory. They went to an old folks home and they spent time with these 90-year-old people. And the whole purpose of the video was they wanted to connect with the elderly. And there was one woman who was 103 years old that they met. She was funny as heck, dude. She was sharp. And she had been to every continent except for one continent Loomis, take a guess what continent that was.
I would say Antarctica right
No,
away.
no,
No?
no.
What?
It's the other one that's near and dear to your heart.
Australia.
She had never been to Australia. So
Okay.
in this YouTube video, they surprised her and they said, you know what? We're going to fly you first class and take you to Australia. And it was just this beautiful moment of people connecting with one another. Had nothing to do with anything awake. Okay. It was not about the Illuminati. It was not about the satanic pedophiles. It was not about the chemtrails, the fluoride in our water supply. It had nothing to do with any of that.
Yeah.
But yet it was a beautiful thing to watch. And maybe the Bob Tuskin of yesteryear would say, what a lame, weak sheeple to watch something like that on YouTube and be touched by it. But I'll tell you, the more philosophical Bob Tuskin of today, perhaps, the lover of wisdom, that's what literally philosophy means, is very fond of experiencing life and seeing it through that lens. And I was touched. It actually made me cry. I think I was so touched because my dear friend, Dr. Hart Stringfellow, who many of you might remember, he was at the Free Your Mind conference. He was on my radio show many times over the years. He passed away last year. Maybe it's been 2 years now, at 95 years old. And he and I,
He's a great man.
Oh, fantastic
guy.
I learned so much from him. He was a dear friend. But he and I went on an adventure to the Northwest when he was in his early 90s. And we also went to the Free Your Mind conference when he was in his early 90s. And experiencing that with him and seeing that wonderment in his eye. Children and the elderly, they have this inner child. I think we start off with this inner child and this lens of the world where everything looks so crisp and so beautiful, and we learn all these things, and it's so touching. Like, wow, the moon was full last night, and it was amazing. Did you see the moon a couple days ago?
I did.
It was beautiful. It was awesome. And, as kids, we look at these things for the first time and we look up at it and we say, wow, this is amazing. And I think just like any growth curve, we lose that, a lot of us, at some point. We start to lose that same sense. It's like if you go to prison, for instance, before going to prison, and I've never been to prison, thank God, but before going to prison, you might take for granted being able to order a pizza.
Yeah.
Not the most healthy thing to eat, but you might take for granted ordering a pizza. But then you go to prison for 10 years and you get out of prison and you take that first bite of pizza for the first time in 10 years. Oh my goodness. That pizza's delicious. It's unbelievably good. The sauce, the bread. Oh my goodness. And I've experienced times like that in my life. I was in a wilderness program for 3 months at 17, where I was completely off the grid. I had dropped off of the planet Earth practically in my early 20s and lived off the grid in Mexico. I had left my show at the time. I think I was still traveling 2+ hours into civilization just to keep some sort of semblance of a voice out there at the time. And, I've experienced sort of this Buddhist path, if you will, at various times of my life. And, it's always been very fulfilling, and you realize that there's so much more out there to life. And we get jaded by all of these creature comforts that we take for granted. And just to finish my thought, we start off with this sense of wonderment, and as we get older, it seems like for a lot of folks, and maybe they're unique, but it starts to come back. And I look at the response that my dear friend Dr. Hart Stringfellow had to some of our adventures. I mean, just experiencing that vicariously alongside him was amazing. We drove in to a what do they call that when you drive your car into a ship? A
ferry.
Yeah. So we took a ferry off the coast of Washington State to a little tiny island right off the coast there. And I actually did a cool video on this island because it was an island with no police.
Oh, wow.
So there was a population of maybe 300 people there, and they had no police department. So the only way for there to be a police presence on this island is for them to take the ferry over, and there was no police presence other than that. So Hart and I, Dr. Stringfellow and I, we got on this ferry, drove to the island, explored, and we just went down this random road. And as we were going down the road, it got more and more narrow to the point where the road basically stopped because there was no more road. The car couldn't go forward. The width of the road narrowed so much that the car couldn't go forward. And we put down our windows and we looked to each side of us, and there were berries all around us. And we sat there for the next 30 minutes right from the car eating wild berries. And it was just this amazing experience. And he was loving it. And I cherish that like you wouldn't believe. I really do. Those moments. And by the way, the island with no cops, what happens? We interviewed if somebody was to steal an arguably an arguably offensive thing to do, right? A violation of natural law, if you will. Somebody steals. It was real simple. The residents of the island would know that they have to catch the ferry before they can get away. So they would be waiting there at the ferry for the criminals that stole and say, hey, before you leave the island, could you return my toaster oven that you stole from me? They didn't need cops.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I don't know how the hell I went down that. See, you get me on these radio shows and I just start ranting, dude. Does that make it good or bad? Like, do people want to hear me just rant, or do they want to are they following this, or am I just sounding like a crazy person?
No, I think people like conversations like this. And here's a point though. I think what your point is you're enjoying the little things in life. Like, we don't have to always focus on all this information, which I don't like to either. Actually, I'm sometimes pretty bored of it. And you're saying you're going to eclectic sources like NPR, or just finding things and appreciation for life in the little things. And when people are old, they start to appreciate those little things more. And like you said, when they were a baby, they also, or a young child, you appreciate these things because you don't take it for granted. Yeah.
And the thing about NPR is that I don't agree with 90% of what's presented oftentimes.
Sure.
And I like that. I used to have guests on my radio show that I disagreed with. It's a novel concept, but nobody else did it.
Yeah.
I mean, think of the last time you watched a presenter that had somebody on that they disagreed with. It doesn't happen often.
No.
And I think that's unfortunate, because at the end of the day, I think that sharpening our pencil with challenging our beliefs and what we don't agree with. Listen, NPR is not going to brainwash me. I hate to break it to you. I'm not going to suddenly go to the dark side because I listened to something I disagree with on NPR.
Right.
Oh my God. They got me. They got me, Loomis. Jeez. They got it. No, it doesn't happen like that. And if you're that fragile,
Yeah.
in your foundation, in your logic, and your ability to critically think, and that's why critical thinking is of the utmost importance.
Absolutely.
That's why, learning how to think, not necessarily what to think, but how to think. The classical education, the trivium, the quadrivium, these skills of logic, rhetoric, grammar, all of these things are so fundamental and provide you with the ability to go into dangerous territory and not flinch.
Yeah.
That's powerful. That's more important than anything. I hear my son, Bob Tuskin Jr., who's now 12 years old. He's catching up to your boys, Loomis.
Wow.
Before I know it, he'll be dating women and all that fun stuff. But right now, he's still a kid, thank God.
Yeah.
And he's homeschooled, so he hasn't lost that innocence. He doesn't have a phone. All that
cool.
good stuff. So he's still a kid. We do kid stuff, but he does get exposed to our beliefs.
Yeah.
So he's an opinionated little guy.
I know. I've talked with him already before. Yeah.
You've heard. I mean,
Yeah.
he's opinionated. You hear shit from him, and it's like, whoa, that's pretty awake. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
I take issue with it. And I challenge him sometimes. And here's what I mean by that. Although it's music to my ears to hear him talk about, let's just pick a topic, fluoride. No, Dad, I would never. Fluoride calcifies your pineal gland. It's poisonous, blah, blah, blah. It's a toxin, blah, blah, blah. That's music to my ear. To hear my 12-year-old son, and he was even talking this way when he was much younger, speak on these things. There's an occasional time in which he says something like that, and I realized that he did not come to that understanding on his own, that he's regurgitating the influence that he's, been feeding off of from myself and his mother and others. And although that's cool, and I think he's on the right side of history, I would rather him go through the exercise, like in math back in the day, they're like, show me your work.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's right. He's coming to the right. He's got the right answer, but he's not showing me his work on how he got there.
Yeah.
And I think the problem, going back to how you started this episode, with a lot of this movement and where it's headed, is that it's become too much of people that are regurgitating things that they've heard and have not come to these conclusions in an organic fashion where they can show you their work.
It's not nuanced.
No,
I agree. And there's a lot of people that they're just stuck in their beliefs, like the regular sheeple types, but they're just stuck in this belief system, like they can't hear new things at the same time. And it's black and white thinking, again, not eclectic.
It's like my shirt, black and white. You recognize this guy?
Is that Hitler? No.
Yeah, smaller mustache.
Yeah.
Now it's Hitler. Wait.
Yeah. Yes, I know that guy. Well, I don't know him, but I know of his. Yes.
You don't know him?
Mr.
Personally.
Tesla. Yeah, not personally. The real Tesla, not those stupid cars.
Yeah, it's funny how they hijacked the name Tesla.
I had this real quick. I had a rental car. I took the what do they call it? Like the wild card or whatever they called it. I didn't know what I was gonna get.
Like a hotwire deal where they just give you whatever.
Yeah, and I got a Tesla. I'm like, oh, we don't know how to drive this.
Yeah, because they bought all these electric cars, the car rental companies.
Yeah, and it was confusing and I hated it. I actually felt like I was in this computer driving it. That's like you're so focused on everything's in. It's like driving an iPad basically. It's stupid because I was on the neighbor island of Kauai, and we used 34% battery, and we only went halfway around the island. I was like, wow, this is dumb. Like, why do people like these things? But anyway,
My dad's calling me right now. Let's pick up. Hold on.
Okay.
Oh shucks, I missed him. I was gonna say let's pick up, and I'll give you an example of how different perspectives are.
Let's do it.
Let's see here. Hopefully this will come across.
Your phone calls?
What's that?
Are you screening your phone calls?
No, I'm on a podcast right now with Loomis. Say hi to Loomis.
Hey, Loomis, what's up, bud?
Hey, how's it going?
He says, hey, how's it going? So
Can you
listen,
hear me all right?
I know you're not happy about the election, but guess what? Your life's not going to change that much because of this guy. These figureheads are not really in control. At the end of the day, Dad, the Federal Reserve System and the geopolitical cabal that is creating all of these wars, they're the ones really in control. So don't worry too much about Trump, Dad. I know you don't like him.
You mean the Disney characters that he's bringing in?
Well,
All
I
the
mean,
ones that are from Disney.
I can't say that we can call them all Disney characters. I mean, don't you like Robert Kennedy?
Oh yeah, he's great. He's great. If I could understand him, it would be great. He needs to talk a little louder so I can understand him.
Huh.
Yeah. Well, listen. Don't worry. It's all going to be
what?
okay.
The good news is we got Dr. Oz from Wizard of Oz. We got him now.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. Well, can I call you after this broadcast? I know we disagree on a lot of things. I know we disagree on Israel and what they've been doing. We disagree on a lot of things, don't we?
No, we don't. We agree on everything.
No, we just
Absolutely. Get Landon on your podcast.
Oh yeah. Okay.
He would like to be on your podcast. More important, how's my grandson?
We were just talking about him on the show, actually. That's something we can agree on. He has his own opinions on things, doesn't he?
Oh, he sure does. All right. Loomis, thanks. Nice talking to you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on unexpectedly.
He said thanks for coming on a show unexpectedly.
You're welcome.
All right, love you, Dan. Bye. All right, so there you go.
Yeah.
Real life.
Yeah.
We disagree on practically everything. He's completely in a trance with this whole Trump, not Trump, this, that, whatever. It's irrelevant. I think that what that call just illustrated, other than my father having a smart ass sense of humor like myself, which I guess it doesn't fall too far from the tree, as they say.
Right.
But I think what that illustrated is you'll notice that I tried to bait him into our disagreements on Israel, our disagreements on what really matters out there. He believed that if Kamala was elected versus Trump, that would have made a difference. I believe that it had no relevance on reality, not probably too dissimilar to yourself.
Yeah.
And I tried to bait him into all of that, right? But what did we end with? What did he say at the end there?
He still loves you. He loves you.
Yeah, and who did he ask about? My son.
Your son,
His grandson, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And that is what really matters, folks. None of this other shit really makes a difference. So let's get back to basics. Let's get back to the homestead. Let's not alienate all these people because they choose to be ignorant. Because I do believe it's a choice to a certain extent in his case. I think it's a lack of bandwidth, perhaps. He's busy chasing Federal Reserve notes to have provided. He came from a poor family in New York, and he's been down a path that isolated him from a true desire to really learn what's going on in our universe.
Right.
So, as much as I think that's unfortunate, I didn't choose that path. I value wisdom. I think that at the end of the day, there's a fundamental understanding that a lot of us have that should supersede and take precedent to the individual issues that we gripe about constantly. And that right there that lack of that understanding right there is what's caused so much infighting within this movement, which it's caused this hyperbolic shift where people are no longer looking at it from the perspective of seeking truth. They're looking at it from the perspective of fraternity, and from, a perspective of, I'm in this camp, you're in that camp, and I'm going to stick to this camp and defend it even if it's illogical, and we're going to fight because our camps don't align.
Yeah.
That's dangerous. That's really dangerous, no matter what it is. No matter whether it's the flat earth, non-flat earth camps, whether it's the Trump, Kamala camps, these are all examples of folks that at the end of the day are forgetting that these camps, they don't identify you. They're just a small portion of the big picture. And all of these things require, and you use this word so brilliantly, if I can even speak, all of these things require nuance.
Absolutely.
That is the word of the day, folks. Nuance. What does nuance mean? I don't know. Let's look up the definition of nuance.
I would just say it's like an assortment of eclectic ideas and not being stuck to your worldview and allowing new things to come in. But yeah.
The definition, according to the Oxford Dictionary, nuance: a subtle difference in or shade of meaning, expression, or sound. Okay. Well, I like your definition. This one gets me thinking of the fact that it's not black and white, as you were just saying before. There's concepts that are not necessarily mutually exclusive to one another. There are times where something might be so, and in another context, it might not be so. Right. There are all sorts of possibilities, and the possibilities are endless. We live in a very vast system, and I think we forget just how many fractals there are in reality.
Yeah, totally. And I've had to actually put myself in a position lately, and I'm probably you too, with all this Trump hype, right? Like, so here you have a group of people that are saying that we're basically saved from the New World Order. And of course, we know that we're not. But at the same time, I've had to like go back, and I'll just totally open-minded. I don't even believe in government, but to go back and go, okay, what if there were people within these places like the CIA, like the NSA, like these think tanks a bit that don't like what's going on? Could there be people that want to thwart this New World Order? So I've always
Guaranteed.
had to, yeah. So
I'll give you an example real quick.
Yeah.
At the Free Your Mind conference, I gave a lecture called Beans, Bullets, and Band-Aids about preparedness, essentially.
I remember that. Yep.
And afterwards, one of the audience members came up to me and they said, "Hey, Bob, enjoyed your talk immensely. I usually don't share this, but I want to tell you something." I said, "What's that?" He leaned in. He goes, "I work on a very high level at FEMA." FEMA? Oh, okay. He got my attention. He said he was a high-level executive at FEMA. I said, "Really? Interesting. So what's your thoughts? What are you thinking?" And he said, "You're exactly right. There are us, what do they call that? White caps versus black
white
caps?
hats. Yeah,
white hats.
Yeah.
There's those of us that are just everyday people in these bureaucratic agencies that are definitely hijacked in many respects at various times. But there's also those of us who are genuinely concerned that whether it's done by some terrorist I say that word loosely, or it's done because of some sort of EMP or whatever the cause might be, we're genuinely terrified of the idea that the grid could go down and how people would be able to survive that sort of event. And your message of preparedness transcends any of the possible events that might cause us to live in a world where those who weren't prepared are going to have to fight for survival in a way that's unfathomable. And he shared this with me from FEMA, which validated some of my thinking. And I don't get the impression that he was there as some sort of agent to learn about what we were saying, to, make sure that they knew that we knew, that they know that we know that they know, whatever bullshit, right? Like, he was there because he was genuinely interested and concerned about the status of our world today. And that transcended for him his identity as a female agent, which was fascinating. So I think you're exactly right. I think there is some nuance to a lot of these players. And I don't think it's black and white. I think we can say the same thing perhaps about Robert Kennedy Jr. I on one hand am doubtful that any of these positions will really have any impact. But on the other hand, I listened to Dr. Jack Cruz in an interview he did where he talks about being called in by Kennedy and Nicole Shanahan, who was Sergeant Brin's ex-wife and the mother of his child. She's fully embedded into DARPA, Silicon Valley, the systems of control there, and all of the Big Brother network, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But yet she seeks out enlightenment, and perhaps she's a black sheep. There's a very big possibility that I could just say, well, Nicole Shanahan works with Kennedy, one of his biggest backers at this point, but she's connected to DARPA, she's connected to Google, she's connected to 23andMe. And I could start, connecting the dots, and we run the risk of coming to an incomplete or naive conclusion that because of the guilt by association fallacy that somehow she's in on it. When in reality, it's probably more nuanced. She might have gotten in too deep. We know that, for instance, multi-generational abuse is common within many of these bloodlines. So you have families that are torturing their babies that are born into these bloodlines of dark, dark evil. And those innocent babies are brainwashed by their own to follow suit, to continue the generational systems of control and mind control. And I'd love to see that cycle broken. You have whistleblowers like Jay Parker, who were born into these families, who were able to break free from that, which is incredible to me.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm ranting again.
No. So there's people like Ted Gunderson, who came out of the FBI and blew the whistle on child trafficking and all kinds of stuff. And so, there are people that are genuinely, trying to do what they can from their position. But a lot of people, I guess, in this so-called scene, oh, well, that person was involved with this, so they must be bad.
Well, I heard things about Ted Gunderson. I heard he was a wolf in sheep's clothing, that he never truly left the agency, the Alphabet Soup group. But I think more importantly, excuse me, we should be at the point where we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, where we don't shoot the messenger. At the end of the day, I don't have to necessarily come to a complete conclusion on the messenger. I really don't give a shit about Ted Gunderson, Bob Tuskin, Loomis, Alex Jones. I really don't give a shit about Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Robert Kennedy. I don't give a shit about any of these people. I don't see people. I see information.
Yeah.
I see actions. I see the thoughts that are shared. I see the activity that's done. To me, the people, if we're going to just, again, there's nuance here, right? If we're going to just sum it up as a figurehead, a scapegoat, we're always going to be left generalizing it so that we may ignore components in which are extremely important to incorporate in our tapestry of understanding of the world today. Totally. I've always used this agnostic approach to learning where I'm collecting puzzle pieces, and those puzzle pieces might not always fit right away. Right. But I put them in my back pocket and, oh, shoot. Blue light, DARPA. Oh, shoot, the puzzle piece is connecting. I had that puzzle piece in my back pocket all along. I didn't discount it altogether. And I think that is so important. And I think it is a part of the agenda, clearly, to get people to latch on to figureheads and scapegoats and not focus on solutions, information unto itself and everything else. It's very important we realize that. Very important.
I agree totally. And I think that's what always attracted me to your show way back. I mean, you were really busy way back in, I don't know, was it 2008 to 2012, somewhere around there. You were on lots of shows, but what I always liked is you were looking for solutions. You were kind of just throwing out, you were like, I don't really care about this and that. I want solutions. I mean, that's what we're here to talk about. Like, that's what we want, and yeah, I think that's important.
And we do have to identify the problems in order to understand the solutions. And we do have to be weary that the creation of many more problems is often found within the supposed solution. And I can give you examples of that. Let's just look at Big Pharma. Now, again, this is nuanced, but there are certain medications out there that you take to solve XYZ problem. And next thing you know, you're dealing with a whole plethora of other issues that come from the supposed solution.
Yeah.
That's kind of an easy example, but there's many more examples of that where we look to change something because we're alerted to the fact that there's something aberrant about what's going on here. And then we say, okay, well, let's change it by doing this. And then next thing we know, that thing that we did to change what we thought was the problem was creating a whole plethora of other cornucopia of other issues, right?
Yeah.
And the powers that shouldn't be, they know this. That's why they use things like the Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. They know this. They anticipate this sort of dialectic 100%.
Yeah, they do. And you can even look at like what Freeman would used to talk about, how with 9/11 they left almost like breadcrumbs so they could create actually a group of people that are like, hey, this doesn't add up, so they could create the truth movement, right?
I spoke to Freeman the other day, by the way.
Yeah, how is he? Well,
he's great. People need to support Freeman. Go to Freeman TV and subscribe. He hasn't done any shows. The reason I say support him is because he has such a large body of work and was at this even before myself. He was one of the original, you talk about me being an OG, Well, I looked at him. He was one of the guys that inspired me when he
Right.
was doing a public access television show in Austin after Alex Jones Monday through Friday, before AJ became AJ. So Freeman was doing that public access show. And back in the day when it was cool, I found it through Google Videos, which doesn't exist anymore, where you could upload these downloads of different videos. And it was
I
one of the
remember.
early
Yeah.
streaming platforms. Freeman was at it. He was uploading all of his public access shows to the internet back then, which was taking it from just an occult local Austin show and putting it out there to the world. And he's just been a tremendous, interesting, cool guy that I've learned so much from over the years. We've had him at all the Free Your Mind conferences, of course. And he's like semi-retired right now. He's kind of, him and I talk about it. And, you know, he tried to get online a couple times, and then like divine intervention, his computer went down, or a hurricane hit his place and the whole grid goes down or whatever. And he's in an interesting place right now. I hope one day he's able to come on and share his insights, how he's gone from being prolific to not being burnt out. It's not burnout that we're talking about. I didn't burn out. I could keep going. It's about applying yourself in an effective manner. And there's a lot of ways to go about doing that. It is different for each individual, which is something that I always said on my show, which is you might not host a radio show like myself or Loomis. That might not be your outlet to make a difference in our world today, but find something you can do. Find something that suits you, where you are able to go out there and make a difference. And for some, that's doing a show because maybe you're, slightly more articulate than others. I don't know how the hell I do it. I don't know that I'm very articulate. I often make up words and have massive flubs and rants that make no sense, but nonetheless, I still did it and, got out there and hopefully had a couple people have some light bulbs go off. But maybe you're a guy who's really handy and you're really good at creating stuff. I am not handy. I couldn't build something if my life depended on it. But maybe there are builders out there that are going to help save our brothers and sisters from what is a slippery slope that we've been crying the alarm about for many years now. So, everyone has their own unique impact on this planet. And, that being said, don't allow yourself to be tampered and to be governed. When you don't want a car to go past a certain speed, you put a governor on it, right?
Right.
Don't have that internal governor placed on you. Don't allow your potential to go out, and go above and beyond. And don't. I think we sometimes put our own internal governors on things that we can and cannot do, limiting our limiting our not expectations, but limiting our ability. I can't do that. I just did it. I said I can't build. Yeah. That was a story that I've created in my mind. That was a governor that I've put on my ability to do something. I probably can build. It's just going to take me some more work. It's going to take me some more learning. I'm going to have to get some better skills. So I think at any point in time, if you find yourself thinking, I can't do that, or this is too much of an uphill battle, there's no way I can stop this from happening, there's no way I can take on this Babylon system, this megalomatic, is that a word?
Is it?
Something mega. This mega system.
We'll take it. Yeah.
I was going somewhere with that. But don't let that stop you. I mean, yeah, it might seem like a big undertaking, but fuck it.
Yep. Yeah. Well, yeah. Don't limit yourself. Absolutely. And I mean, like, you also grow from certain things. So like you did a show, Freeman did a show, but they've grown into what you've grown into what you do now, and so has Freeman. So they've, you kind of go from one thing to the next. I don't know what I'm saying. I guess but basically is, yeah, you can learn to build if you want. You can learn a new skill. It's going to be hard, but you can advance yourself in a new way to become nuanced and in many different things. And we don't have to just limit ourselves all the time.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So where do we go from here?
Well, I don't know, but I think that I don't know. It's an interesting time now that we're in this world where suddenly a lot of people are falling in this Trump thing where, I don't know, they're just starting to think, oh, all this is going to be taken care of, and like, the white hats are going to take care of it. But I don't know. I'm just going to throw this by you, and I want to know what you think of this. I have this theory. It's like a working theory that what they're going to do, because like, look, they're going to get Alex Jones as the press secretary, I guess. Is that bullshit or?
Yeah, that wasn't legit.
All right, okay.
But that would be funny as hell, right?
Yeah, I heard that on my when I was on a trip a week ago, and I was like, really? No way.
That would be so funny, man.
Okay.
That would be entertaining, very much so.
Yeah.
Next question.
It would be hilarious. It'd be hilarious. But I feel like they're going to give this, what we've been talking about for a long time. They're kind of like bringing it out in the open to give it this like 4 years, and they're using this as an example that we didn't follow the science or we didn't listen to climate change, and it's going to just trash this information that you and I and others have covered. But they're making it more this commercialized version, Trump version of it, and they're going to put it out in the world, and it's going to be this thing that they're going to show fail so they can bring in what they had in mind before. I don't know. What do you think of that?
So it's we're being set up for failure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Like, oh, we can't listen to these truth people anymore. Look what they did. Maybe they have a plan for it to just trash it in the whole public eye.
Yeah, kind of like a sacrificial lamb, or like an agent provocateur of sorts, where we're releasing some of the pressure from the valve just enough to show that there isn't this total control. So we're going to release it just a little bit. We're going to set it up for failure in many respects, because at the end of the day, these things really don't matter. And then we're going to have an even more despondent, an even more defeated public, where they are even more at the point where they don't have any control. Perhaps it's a great time to bring up the frog in the boiling pot of water analogy. They're just cranking up that temperature just a little bit slower, perhaps, because if they were to crank it up a lot faster, they maybe lowered the temperature a little bit for now, because if they didn't, that frog was going to jump out before it could be cooked. I get what you're saying, Loomis. I feel you. I mean, I think it's possible. Whether or not that's a completely coordinated agenda or not, or that's just a byproduct of what's happening, I don't know. It's very possible there's social engineers who are specifically planning just what you said. They're playing chess and they're looking at the long game. It's very possible that that's a coordinated effort. It's very possible that's just a byproduct of what happens to be happening at the moment. I don't know.
And we have to accept both things, like you're saying, because going back to nuance, like my mind thinks that way because I've been in this sort of line of thinking for so long, but I could be off. and we
Yeah.
both would be off.
Yeah, I'm going to remain agnostic.
Yeah.
That's not to say that I'm not going to keep thinking about it and keep being aware and have my eyes open to this stuff. But yeah, I'm going to think through all those possibilities, and that's certainly one angle that you ought to think about. I'm definitely not poo-pooing your thought there. It's very possible.
I mean, because if you look at how they brought the world, like the left stretch as far as they could one way, and just like we got tranny story time, we got, I mean, even Klaus Schwab dressed like the Emperor in Star Wars. I mean, it's almost like it was like designed to be just way extreme. So then here's this other voice on the other side, like, hey, we want to go back to normal. Yeah. So if they can control both. And that's, we've always seen it that way. It's always been this controlled thing where it was so obvious in 2004 election where you had two skull and bones men running against each other. So I think they had to get a little more sophisticated, if that's the plan at all. But they had, they threw the curveball Obama, and then later now they throw Trump in this other direction. So it's kind of like, could that be, or could it just be, me spitballing here?
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to say. People are getting really into these cabinet positions where he's, appointing various folks. And again, it shouldn't be about the people themselves. It should be about their actions and whatnot. But some of these people's actions are better than others.
Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard, from your home state, has traditionally been a pretty big critic of the military and industrial complex, which I think we need critics out there of the military industrial complex. I think that's something to criticize. It's one of the things that got me into my activism early on was these wars that for the last 20 plus years have been ongoing and nonstop. And we all know that the initial spark in recent history for all that was 9/11, something that was so blatantly lied about and exploited to create these never-ending wars. And you have folks like Tulsi Gabbard who criticized the military-industrial complex. However, she doesn't talk about 9/11, to my knowledge.
Right.
She never brings up that smoking gun, literally. And then you have other folks in his cabinet, like the new Secretary of Defense. What's his name? I'm going to glance at my notes.
So I haven't been paying that close attention. I just the RFK, the Tulsi Gabbard, those.
RFK is cool, but then his Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth.
Yeah.
Okay, so you look into him. Who's Pete Hegseth? Well, he's on Fox News. He's a commentator on one of the weekend shows, but he was a member of a group, a pro-war veterans group. So he's been essentially an activist to support these never-ending wars. He's been an apologist for the neocon geopolitical never-ending wars in the Middle East. He's been very outspoken about these conflicts, and as a result, I'm like, shit, we're seeing neocons put into these positions. The Secretary of Defense is a neocon. That's not cool. That doesn't support this narrative that the white hats are now in control. I think anybody who's put any of their hopes and dreams into this camp is a dumbass, to be honest. I don't mean to call you a name. I love you, brother. I love you, sister. But you're a dumbass if you think it's that simple. I mean, it's obviously not that simple.
No. Well, yeah, I've always just had problems with the whole thing from way back in 2016, because here we are being bombarded by things like chemtrails, and that hasn't changed. Actually, it's even gotten worse.
Nobody's brought it up.
No one's even brought it up. Yet they say climate change is a hoax, but they're not exposing what's causing the climate to possibly change through these modified weather programs, So stuff like that. I do, and I think most of us have always seen like, well, wait, why aren't they talking about that? Why aren't they talking about 9/11? Why, so I never fell for it or went for
No.
it, but a lot of people are now. And it's funny because even anarchists I know voted for Trump.
I guess that in their mind, it's the lesser of two evils. That whole, the whole dialectic of the lesser of two evils hasn't changed. It's election after election. It's always that justifies them wanting to participate in this bullshit system. The lesser of two evils in my mind is beans, bullets, and band-aids. It's awareness in my family and my community, and action in my family and my community. And I rather not spend a minute of my time feeding into the lesser of two evils things as if that's going to make a difference. I mean, I guess it can't hurt because it really doesn't matter anyways. So if you want, okay, yeah, it maybe takes 10 minutes to vote or whatever. Okay, cool. But just don't let that be the end all be all. If you're going to do that, then you better do a whole bunch of other work. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you want to vote, fine, fuck it. Like, okay, vote for Trump, whatever. If that makes you feel a tiny bit better, good. But that feeling of goodness is an illusion, and don't let it intoxicate you from the reality of the situation. It is the soma. Voting for a particular group is this brave new world soma that intoxifies people from facing reality, which is he's not your savior and you need to do something about it. Not just count on the orange guy or the brown gal. You need to do something about it.
Yeah. Yeah. This is really about just taking control of our own lives too. And
Yeah.
connecting with fam and appreciating every day of life. Like, I've calmed down a lot over the years talking about a lot of this geopolitical stuff because it doesn't, at the end of the day, I can turn the mic off and I can do regular life. Yeah, I know like COVID happened and that was crazy. But most of the time, like everything's normal and you can still go out in the forest and you can enjoy nature. There's still so much to focus on that's good that I lose sight of most of it. And if I don't pay attention to it, I'm fine. So,
I want to plan another trip to Hawaii.
you should come back. Yeah.
Yeah. Love to.
It's open. It's damn expensive, but it's a unique, magical place.
Yeah.
And that's going to be highlighted a little bit in the documentary I'm doing as well. And it's a very there's no land really like it. I've done the South Pacific a bit, but Hawaii's its own vibration, and each island's different. So yeah, you should come back.
That's what life's about, is experiencing that sort of thing. And they want to lock us down. They know that the average person never leaves their hometown, kind of thing. And I don't know. I've always been somebody who loves to see the world. I love seeing people. I love seeing culture.
Me too.
I'm not a cultural relativist. That doesn't mean that morality just goes away because we're in a different place. But I love the food that people have, catered and created in different cultures. I go to Hawaii and I love that food there, man. That one poke place in that shopping plaza that where they had, oh man, that was good.
Yeah, it sounds like it's calling you.
I need some, man. I'll travel just for some of that poke. Yeah. Now, yes, folks, there's probably mercury in that tuna and a slew of toxins in that food. Of
course.
But I'd like to think that some of it's okay. I'd hope to think some of it's okay. But in a perfect world, it wouldn't be poison, and we would be able to experience it for this vibrant, artistic nutrients that it is. Food is important, and we shouldn't alienate eating good food with, different culinary innovation and gastronomical innovations, because some of our food supply is poisonous. I don't want to eat bland food all the time. Can I do both? Can I eat good, fun, interesting, eclectic dishes from different cultures around the world and also eat clean? Why do the two, why can't I do both? Why do I have to eat just organic, broccoli with nothing on it, kind of thing, why can't I experience the goodness in life? Same thing with music. I want to listen to music. The music industry has been hijacked by all sorts of sinister, dark, occult, nonsense. But I like music. I want to listen to music. Shout out to Mike Love from Hawaii, who's able to make beautiful music and not compromise the teachings in his music. I interviewed him, as you know, for Growing Freedom, and we spoke about this. And you can do both. We can live in a world where you can have great music and not have it be sold out to the devil. You can live in a world where we eat delicious food and not have it sold out to processed poisonous food industry.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a world where we can do these things. You can live in a world where you can travel freely and experience the beauty of our planet and not have to, jump through the hoops of our system that tends to, motivate people not to go out and see the world. I do fly. I choose to fly. It's not ideal, but it's a balance for me. I won't do the facial recognition scanner. I won't do the full body scanners that they put you through. I haven't done one ever.
Same.
Many times. Now, is that the end all be all? Am I fully, holding on to my sovereignty? No, because they know when I'm flying that, Big Brother knows it's fine, but I'm still going to fly, right? And I'm going to pick and choose my battles to a certain extent, because to me, it's more important to get out there and see the world than it is to fight against certain battles, right? So if I know that I can still fly and opt out of the scanner, I'm going to opt out and choose to fly every time.
Yeah.
Anyways, I don't know.
No,
I think we've been at it for too long, man.
Yeah. Yep. We're here at the end, I guess. But but I think the overall message of today's show is just to dance around with all this information and not just, be stuck and enjoy life and, and realize that, there's a lot of nuance. There's a lot more than just looking at the new world order all the time. It's not going to fulfill your heart, but what is going to fulfill your heart possibly is traveling around the world or experiencing good times with loved ones, or, anything, going out to nature. I mean, we have to do these things and we can't just sit. I mean, we got to fight too, but there's a place for everything. Yeah.
Ground yourself.
Yeah.
Don't stay inside and become, what do they call that? Some sort of phobia. What's the phobia where you don't want to leave your house?
Is it agoraphobia?
Agoraphobia, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't become agoraphobic because there's monsters out there. Yeah, there's monsters out there, but those monsters are winning if they scare you where you don't leave your house.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those monsters are imaginary. It's a war on your mind.
Right. It's like fear. The acronym of fear: false evidence appearing real.
Yep. It's
Yep.
fear. And if you allow that fear to control you, then it's winning. So don't let it control you, folks.
Nope. Can't let that happen.
Amen.
Well, Bob, where can people find any work you do, or what
I
are
don't
you?
know.
Yeah, you don't know?
I don't know.
Yeah.
At some point, growing freedom is going to be a thing.
Okay, good. Yeah.
You know, I'm excited about your documentary. One of these days, I'll finish my documentary. I'm betting on you to get yours done before mine. I've been at it for so many years now that I've taken some big gaps and some, I've been on a hiatus with it. But at some point, growing freedom will be a thing, and you can find me appearing on Chant Down once in a while on other shows. I actually did a show with Steve Stars yesterday on the Republic Broadcasting Network. So I'm dabbling still here and there. My YouTube channel, I am at some point going to resurrect. I've done a couple live feeds on my YouTube channel over the last couple months.
Oh, wow.
So we'll see if I can stick with that. And you can find me on the farm. You can find me with my son on the weekends. You can find me eating good food and going to see Loomis. And you can call me. People call me. I'm going to give out my number. My phone number is 954-6. No, I'm joking.
I was like, wow, that's pretty bold.
I wish I could give out my number. I kind of want to. I mean, if you want to call me, email Loomis, and then he can give you my phone number. Okay.
There we go. Right. If you want to have a conversation with Bob
Call
Tuskin,
me.
He will talk to you. So we'll do it. All right. Well, it's great to hear your voice again and see you on and talk story. And we will do it again sometime in the near future.
Awesome. Look forward to it.
All right, brother. Sounds good.